There are two traits which are innate, eternal to all of us as human beings. The first is reciprocity, and the second is rationality. No matter how, quote, good or bad a person is, they will have these inherent tendencies that seep beyond the conscious vritti and the subconscious samskaras. Reciprocity and rationality both are embedded deep in the Buddhi, in the sentience of the Homo sapiens, in the delineating intellect. In the world of prana, the highest force that we have, which is above the indriyas, above the man, is the Buddhi. Vinashkale Viparit Buddhi means that at time of destruction, your Buddhi or intellect stops working. Just like Duryodhan was trying to incarcerate and imprison Sri Krishna when he brought the Sandhi Prastav or the peace pact to avoid the Mahabharata war, and instead of listening to his suggestions of giving the Pandavas 5 villages and do away with the war, he said he would not give even the land that can be held by the tip of the needle. एक सुई की नोक पे जितनी ज़मीन आ सकती है उतनी भी नहीं दूंगा. सो जब नाश मनुष्य पर छाता है पहले विवेक मर जाता है, उल्टे हरि को बांधने चला, जो था साध्य वो साधने चला. So when destruction is very close to you, your buddhi or delineating intellect will be totally muted, and ahamkara will override the buddhi to lead you to get instantly destroyed. So whether you think of temptations, the transient pleasure-seeking rut tendencies, or this sudden onset of craving, all of them are manifestations of heightened indriya combining with the ego or the ahamkara, creating this false perception of I being different from others and I interacting matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukta agama payoni nityansi chasu bharata. The matra sparshastu sparsh, contact of the indriya with the objects of sensual gratification happens, and the transient pleasure derived is being recorded by the memory. So the two enemies of an individual, the ego and indriyas, when they are acting in independent of each other, then the buddhi can handle them. But if ego and indriya kind of collaborate, then they can conspire and bring down the buddhi, which is what happens during vinashkal or destruction. However, when the vinashkal is over, the buddhi comes back, albeit slowly. A lot of characters of buddhi are similar to that of its big brother, Atman or soul. That is why the hierarchy in which indriya is at the bottom, which is inferior to the mind, which in turn is inferior to the buddhi, which in turn is inferior to the soul. Indriyani paranundeva paramana manasastu parabuddhayo buddhe partusta evam buddhe param buddhva sanstabhyatmanatmana jahi shatru mahabho kam rupam durasam. That is why you have to quench, nigraha, suppress the indriyas, because they are always bringing 90% of the times wrong suggestions that leading to inflation of the ego and creating more hankerings, desires, cravings, emotions in the mental manomai plane and leading to more karma bandhan, more punarjanams. But once you start cleaning your closet using the power of Panch Pratyahara and the power of Tri Yoga, Buddhi starts to rejuvenate, and its eternal characteristics, which are reciprocity and rationality, return. What is reciprocity? Reciprocity is the instant, spontaneous willingness to return a favor that an individual has done to you. Reciprocity is the instant willingness to return a foul that an individual has incurred on you, no matter what. So, reciprocity is tainted by ego because it thinks of you as being different from the other person. If you do good to a homeless person without having any expectation, give him a hot breakfast, or if you help an orphan kid and sponsor him so that he can get his basic education and lead a good life without expecting anything from the homeless person in return, without expecting anything from the orphan kid, you are instilling reciprocity in these individuals. Neutral individuals who we have no connection to, who we have changed their life in any small way at the moment, have registered reciprocity in their buddhi, and they will live earnestly to repay whatever good you have done to you. Just like karma pays back what you do to an individual, the buddhi will make these individuals come back and do you a favor because there is heartfelt gratitude that that individual has felt from you. So you have, in a way, created an individual who is going to be loyal and friendly to you if you ever run into his path. Not that you should expect him to return you any favors. So reciprocity works best with neutral individuals with whom we have no connection, but we have done random acts of kindness when they were in some sort of trouble or torture. We have activated the compassion center of Anhada when we were helping them out because we felt, how would we feel if we were standing in the cold and begging for $2 to get a breakfast? How would I have felt as a 5-year-old if I lost my parents and had nobody to help me get food, water, shelter, basic amenities, love, compassion? So this empathy, compassion, drum without a surface that keeps beating all the time is the first higher chakra that tells you you have transcended the lower 3 chakras of Muladhara, basic subsistence, Swadhisthana, leisure enjoyment, and Manipura, ambition. Once we have crossed these, we come in the zone of compassion, in which case we will do random acts of kindness without expectation of any rewards, triggered by the pain and the suffering that we see in another individual because we have transgressed the concept of space, the concept of individuality, because we believe in the Brahmanical unity undifferentiated, the eternal totality and oneness of the Brahman, and we being the different reflections of the moon as standing in small pots of water. So we are, in a sense, indifferent from one another, and we are reflections or images of the same Paramatman, which has been tainted by different karma bandhans to take these different forms as Maya has attributed us. So that is the power of reciprocity, where there is an urge to return the favor or the foul if you hurt someone in some way. Now, Sometimes individuals might not have been good to you. Sometimes someone might have intentionally tried to hurt you or harm you. Sometimes an individual might have tried to make your life miserable. What if that person is having a bad day, a bad time, or needs a favor from you? You have two options. You could exercise reciprocity and return him the favor, so-called favor, or torture that he inflicted on you by not getting his work done or not allowing him to move forward. That would be the characteristic of reciprocity. Or you could forgive him for the wrong he has done, trying to rationalize that there might have been an angle. He might have gotten into the zone of lust, anger, and greed. He might have tried to feed his family and make some money. He might have wanted to become a better version of himself professionally so that he can ascend the corporate ladder. So there might have been a reason, how trivial it might have been, but there might have been a reason why he acted that way. I'm going to forgive him, I'm going to let him go, and I'm going to do what the Brahmanical neutrality tells me to do, is I will serve him and do the right thing and not expect anything in return. At that point, you have not practiced tit for tat. You have practiced rationality, and in regards to the subject, you have instilled rationality in him. In your part, rationality here means not to inflict pain, because that will create another bouncing effect which has to be bounced back in a future life. Also, you think of that individual as your own self, as a family member, as a son, a wife, a friend. So you forgive them, even if you don't know that individual. On the part of the subject who had inflicted torture and misery in your life in the past and now depends on you to bail them out, that person has suddenly felt a pang of guilt, shame, and he is really feeling inadequate, empty, hollow, miserable, and he wants to apologize to you for the wrong he has done in the past, and suddenly there is dissolution of the ego and the indriyas are cleaned out. Now, my friends, you have instilled rationality in this individual, no matter how evil he was. It doesn't happen all of a sudden. Not El Chapo will become Mother Teresa all of a sudden, but it will happen over time. Depending on the degree of delusion and heightened pramad or madness, degree of tamasic tendencies they have, especially in the psychopaths, sociopaths, serial killers, no matter whether they are claiming to be a messiah, as in case of David Koresh of Waco, the Branch Davidians, or Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma bomber. These guys have very preconceived notions about who they are, what we call delusions in the realm of pramad, and think of themselves to be higher, better, bigger than the rest of the individuals who they claim might have been their followers. However, these individuals too will experience awakening of awareness, the sentience in the Homo sapien, the consciousness or the Brahmanical neutrality instilled by the realm of Buddhi at some point to question their acts when the delusion wall cracks and eventually crumbles down. So, to sum up, my friends, reciprocity and rationality are two inherent traits of delineating intellect or Buddhi. Reciprocity means to return the favors or actions that have been incurred on you by another individual, but that has to be mostly happening in the realm of neutrality. When you have no connection with the individual, you do a random act of kindness, that individual will become loyal to you and try to repay you if they can ever in the future. So do good and forget. Neki kar darya mein dal. Don't think about it or expect any rewards in return is the best way to get the rewards in return. The second trait of buddhi is rationality, which means ability to dissect, rationalize, and think about any action that an individual might have done to us that brought us torture, misery, pain, or suffering. Now, trying to rationalize as to why that individual did that is a little difficult because it's hard to instill compassion, which is what we used in case of reciprocity. But here we are using rationality to find any trivial excuse as to why that individual did that and then forgive him. And then you do the right thing for him when he's seeking your help. So, when an individual is trying to hurt you, you help them. This requires a higher sentient being to practice rationality towards evil people versus compassion installation to create random acts of kindness in the mode of reciprocity towards neutral people. Neutral people, you act in reciprocity. Evil people in your lives, you act with rationality. Always practicing reciprocity will come easier than rationality, but Panch Pratyahara, Tri Yoga, and the philosophical contemplations in Dhyan Yoga will help us instill rationality as well. The power to forgive someone ends the cyclical pranic karma bandhans, and that's why then and there you have demolished any further loading of the samskaras, the subconscious acts, in the karmic logbook. So, my friends, remember when you do acts of kindness, reciprocity is going to come back. And when someone has done wrong to you, use rationality. Reciprocity and rationality both are great tools to understand and remember when you are acting in the realm of Nishkam Karma. Jai Shri Ram.